This is Drew from Brook Gaming, and I definitely do not listen to Discard to Reroll.
Roll trash, Daddy.
I won't roll trash.
This is Jedi Geek Girl from I Rebel, and I never, ever listen to Discard to Reroll with Mr. Chip.
Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Hey, this is Bobby Sapphire from the Hyperloops, and I legit never listen to Mr. Chip on Discard to Reroll.
Discard to Reroll.
It's Discard to Reroll. We're a podcast about a little dice and card game we like to call Star Wars Destiny. I'm your host, Mr. Chip, and thank you for listening. You know something? A lot of us pretend that we can play the game very well. Yours truly, of course, is one of those people. But then there are those people who actually can play the game extremely well to the point where they win competitions. And that is the case for the guest we're going to bring on in just a few minutes. But before we do that, I have to say thank you to everybody who sticks by the show and listens to us and supports us on the Patreon. We've got great things coming up from that. All of you who are part of it now, the fall rewards go out next week. And there are two good ones, and I don't want to spoil them until you get them. But if you just check in the Patreon, you'll see images of those. I'm really excited about those cards. Also, happy to announce that now we're part of Spotify, one of a very few number of CCG and TCG podcasts that are part of the Spotify network. And thank you to everybody over there who made that possible. Bringing the game to a bunch of people that may have no idea what it is. But when they hear it, they say, what is it, Star Wars, dice, cards? I'm in. Of course they are, because we all are. We love this game, and welcome all of you listening now on Spotify. Always want you to be part of the conversations, questions at discardtoreroll.com, and the Twitter or Facebook, which have been a little bit stagnant lately. We got to get those things jacked up, ready for Across the Galaxy, because I'm ready. Are you ready? I know this guy's ready. It's Drew from Brook Gaming. He was our guest. Enjoy the program. Our guest today has made a huge splash in the Star Wars Destiny competitive scene in a very short amount of time. He's won a regional in West Virginia, which gives me a great opportunity to tell my West Virginia joke. He's won the Highlander Games Store Championship, which is one of the most competitive places to play Destiny outside of the mothership in Minnesota. And this past August at the Nova Open in Washington, D.C., he became the 2018 U.S. National Champion. His team, Brook Gaming, has amassed some of the world's best players, including the 2018 Destiny World Champion Edward Chen. To his mother, he'll always be Drew, but to everyone else, he's known as Original and your 2018 U.S. National Champion. It's Drew Warren. Drew, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me. That intro is a lot better than I could have done on my show. So props to you.
Well, I mean, look at how many things you've won. It's been incredible. Like the run and just how it's scaled up, and now you're the national champ. Incredible.
Yeah, thanks. It took a lot of hard work to win the national championship. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say. It was just a lot of hard work, and I put a lot of time into Destiny, and it paid off last weekend. So still feeling great about it. Well,
that's extremely cool. I've got a lot of things I want to talk to you about, and I appreciate you doing this. And it's kickoff weekend for football too, so making some time, means a lot. And we're going to start by just talking some smack a little bit. We got to fire a few shots across the bow. You think about like famous stables of players or famous stables in like wrestling, like the Four Horsemen and the Hart Foundation. I mean, you guys have put together a team that's pretty unstoppable. You know, whether it's your Destiny podcast or Destiny Council or Hyperloops, you got the world champ and the U.S. champ. You guys are the best team. Let's be honest here. The best team going.
I appreciate that. I'm not going to say that. I think pound for pound, there's a couple teams that are still better than us, but we're working hard to be the best team. It's definitely our goal. We want to be at the top, if not the top shark on the food chain, close to the top. And that's what we've been doing. We recognized that we needed to add more competitive players. We've always been friends with Edwin Chen for, basically since I started playing Destiny. He's one of the people who helped me put my R2P2 deck together for the West Virginia Regional. And, he was basically a friend of the team the whole time. And after he won Worlds, we were just like, hey, this makes sense. He agreed. And, we added Dave Caruana also, we kind of saw him as a guy who was, he was a social guy who would do a good job promoting the team, who was also a good player. And then he goes and hits top 4 at nationals. And then Cody Williams is a local guy. I mean, he might be the best player on the team. He's incredible. We added him recently also. So we're trying our best, man. We want to contend with the Hyperloops. So that's what all this is about, really.
Yeah. The teams, I love the idea of the teams coming to Destiny, because first of all, at least we know there's going to be some players that are going to play, because I always get worried, after the set starts to cool down, without the teams, I wonder if anybody even plays anymore. But I could see you starting to work your web right after Edwin Chen won that. He was on your show. I'm like, yeah, he's pulling him in the team. There's no doubt about it. Don't you live close to all of you guys?
Yeah. So the other thing I got to say about Arrowbrook Gaming too is it's not just we're not going to these events just to play Destiny. We want to have fun. So part of the process of us bringing people on to Arrowbrook Gaming are hey, can they go out and party with us at night? Can they have fun after the event? And that's sometimes the more difficult piece. We don't want to add somebody who's not a good fit personality wise. So we like to feel it out a little bit, which is part of why we didn't ask him ahead of time. And then at Worlds, he's basically just having a good time every night. And we were like, this is ideal.
Now, I don't watch Clone Wars, although I should, and I get ripped on it all the time for that. But is Arrowbrook, is that something that's in the Clone Wars universe, or is that your cul-de-sac where you guys live?
Yeah. So that's good. Yeah, it's a cul-de-sac where we grew up.
Perfect. Yes.
Me, my brother Phoenix, and Forever Fett or Paul. We all grew up, close proximity. So that was cool. And then Andrew, who's the 4th member of Arrowbrook Gaming, who people probably don't know because he's been inactive for a while. He grew up a block away. So
Awesome.
That's where Arrowbrook comes from. And, just throwback to where we grew up and where it started.
So I saw on your website, which is arrowbrookgaming.com, by the way, a quick plug, you West Virginia Regional, you took that down with R2P2, correct?
I did, yeah. That was about a month and a half after I started playing Destiny, too. So looking back on that, I think I was pretty bad and might have gotten a little lucky that day. But yeah, I did it, and it's on the resume forever. So I'm proud of it.
It's tough. So winning the whole thing, it's tough to say luck. Really, at the end of the day, that's pretty impressive to do that. By the way, I've got to tell you, it's my West Virginia joke. What has 20 eyes and no teeth?
Oh, man, I don't know.
It's the first 10 people in line for the Destiny regional in West Virginia. But anyway, how many players was that? Is that over 50 players for that regional?
I think we had 55 or 56. It was mid-50s. Yeah. So it was a modest size regional.
Yeah, but it's not, to me, over 2 people, it's not luck. I can barely get out of my own house as the champion. My daughter rolls a little bit better than I do, though. But R2P2, you talk about that deck a lot on all the things I've heard you on interviews and things. It seems like that has a soft space in your heart.
Yeah, it's the first deck I played. I brought that to PAX Unplugged, which is the first live tournament I played, that kind of accelerated my interest in Destiny. I kind of thought it was going to be a casual thing. And I kind of just fell in love with the community when I was there and decided I was going to take it seriously. And then I think there was about a month between Unplugged and West Virginia Regional. So I basically was just on TTS all day, grinding R2P2, trying to get better. So at that time, I was good at R2P2, and I was basically terrible at every other deck, but that was fortunately enough to get me through that field on that day.
Yeah. So you talk about playing it casually versus starting to get really invested in it. What is it about Destiny for you that made you feel I need to turn it up a little bit on this game? I really like it.
I'm a competitive guy by nature. I grew up playing sports, basketball, baseball, and Destiny. I'm 34 now. I'm getting up there in age, so my knees can't really hang with the young guys and on the basketball court as well as they used to. So it kind of fills that competitive niche for me, where I just I need something to compete in, and it's fun. At the end of the day, I like it. I don't know. I like playing roulette and craps and blackjack and that kind of stuff too. I like to gamble, but I also like poker. So it kind of mashes all those things into one with a dice game and a skill game. So it's I don't know. It's just fun.
Yeah, rolling the dice, it just has I don't know. It is very addictive when you start to play that.
For sure.
Are you a Star Wars guy too?
Yeah, no, I've always loved Star Wars. I played the old Decipher game when I was a kid. Not competitively. It was basically just we were trying to jam all right, how can we get Darth Vader, Boba Fett, and every other cool character into one deck? even if it doesn't make sense.
Your teammate, and it seems like the guy that you really started this whole thing with, Paul, Forever Fett, he's got a little bit of Star Wars knowledge behind him, that guy.
He does. So much so that it can be aggravating to talk to him about Star Wars sometimes.
He seems like he knows it pretty well. But I want to go back to Ed Chen for a minute. I don't think he gets enough credit as a player, and here's why. He won with Kylo at at Worlds, and the comment I hear all the time, which drives me bananas, is that Kylo Anakin's good in a vacuum. That basically is implying like he just made a good meta call. Why? Do you feel that way about that deck or Kylo or his choice to play that, or just talk to me about him as a player, and why do you think that Kylo deck gets no love?
Yeah, so I definitely think it was a good meta call. There's no denying that he made a strong meta call. But with that said, I basically watched every game he played on day 2, either on stream or live, just standing there behind him, and he played phenomenal. I mean, I don't think he made a mistake the entire day. It was definitely one of the best live performances of a Destiny player that I've seen. And he really is just a great player. Like when he's on his game, he's a very, very challenging person to play against. And he's just constantly making good decisions. He's always claiming the battlefield at the right time. He's just doing everything properly. So he deserves credit for being a great player, but he also deserves credit for making a good meta call.
Yeah, I think he also won PAX, I think. It might have been the first galactic qualifier at PAX Unplugged I think that was when they first rolled out like the spot glosses and all that stuff, and then just he ran through that qualifier pretty quickly. And I remember an interview I think he did with Knights of Ren, and he was just really laid back. They said, "Well, how do you practice a lot?" He's like, "No, I just kind of build decks and play against him." He said he plays against himself in the kitchen or something like that, like back in the day. And when TTS wasn't really, it was just starting to get popular. But yeah, he just seems like a genius when he plays.
Yeah, he's definitely a really smart guy. That's actually where I met Ed, when I met him at Unplugged, and we were both playing R2P2. So we kind of knew each other from our local, but it was we kind of became friends at Unplugged. And he went 6-0 day 2 of PAX Unplugged, which in my opinion was the most stacked field I've ever played in. Like it was the who's who of Destiny from East Coast and West Coast. Yeah. Probably better than any of the days at Worlds, in my opinion. And the fact that he made it through 6-0 is a testament to how good of a player he is.
I am super pumped because we're going to be at PAX Unplugged this year, and I can't wait to see the new set's going to drop around that time, and it seems to be a lot of people end up showing up for that, and hopefully it's fun and casual and all the cool stuff you talk about.
Yeah, Unplugged's awesome. It's a great event. It's in a good location. There's like really cool bars nearby, which we're obviously a fan of, and the event is it's crowded, but it's not like a big PAX East crowded where you can't get in the front door. So I really like it. It was probably my favorite event that I went to last year.
Yeah. So speaking of the National at Novas this year, first of all, playing on stream has got to be. Was that intimidating? Is that hard to do? Were you conscious of that, like the camera being on you and all that stuff?
Yeah, I was definitely aware of it. There's benefits to it. The most notable is that if you win your first game on stream and stay on stream, the person that you're playing next wasn't on stream, so they're feeling the nerves that you were feeling the game before, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You're not nervous. Yeah. So that was helpful to me in a couple games, but to be completely honest, other than maybe the opening roll of game 1, it didn't really bother me. And one of my weaknesses is I tend to just play faster than I should sometimes. I don't, I'll underthink a situation, and I kind of felt like being on stream made me overthink, which is what you should be doing. Just because I didn't want to botch something big on stream. So I think it helped me.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I would absolutely do if that happened would be to somehow, I wouldn't want to do it, but I'd want to watch again that night and just kind of watch the replays of that. And you told a story about how, were you doing that at the bar afterwards and seeing all your misplays and being fired up about that or something like that?
Yeah, the Arab Gaming guys were all out after day 1B of Nova, and they were making fun of me because I had my head buried in my phone with my earphones in, watching my game against Luke Magnuson that I lost. And I was happy at 7-1, but it's also not 8-0. And no one else in the room other than Cody was 7-1. So they were all happy that for me, they were like, oh, you did great. You couldn't have done any better. And I kind of just like, I realized they made a misplay in the game. And I just like in the middle of the restaurant, I was like, I'm freaking terrible. I'm the worst player ever. How am I 7-1? And they were like, Drew, you need to calm down. You're 7-1. It's okay. So I definitely use that as study.
To me, though, that's like, it's perfect. I mean, you're the national champion now, by the way, so that you got to keep wearing that title on. That you made a misplay, and you can see that misplay, and people see it on stream or watching. Even the Hyperloops guys, when you watch the stuff back, like they forgetting to take, like I think Nick from the Hyperloops forgot to take his second action off of a 4-speed, or like it at least gives me hope. Because I feel like I would have 100 misplays on stream, but like even the best players do it, just accept it and just try to improve from it, from there.
Yeah, I think there was some minor stuff. Like I missed a trigger in one game that cost me an indirect, which like I kind of know that about myself as I'm not fantastic with triggers. Like it's something I'm working on with my live play to try to get better on. But there were some lines that I took where I decided at the beginning of the turn, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. That looking back on it was just completely wrong. So it just helps me. It's nice to have video footage of me doing something terrible, doing something bad.
It's great. Yes, it's great having video footage of you doing something terrible. That's always nice to put in the archives for you. So I got to mention, so on your website, there's a picture of you and Cody, who was the runner-up, which had to feel good. I know you've talked about that before, but you don't get a sense of people's size, and it's not about how big we are or small we are in life. I mean, we all know that, but it is a pretty funny picture because Cody, I think, comes up to somewhere, at the top of your chest, and then you tower over him. Just the way that picture is, it's really, really funny on the site.
Yeah, Cody's not a tall guy, and I would say so. It definitely makes for some good pictures, that's for sure.
But so you guys, you talked about your preparation for the event, and that I don't know. I heard some places you talked about it to practice upwards to 4 or 5 hours a day. Talk to me a minute about. Just did you make the choice as a team? Like, look, let's go all out this time. Let's be on the same deck. Like, how did you all come to the decision that you were going to make this event be special and prepare for it?
For me, it came from bombing Worlds. I did terrible at Worlds. Well, terrible subjective, I guess, but I went 3-3 at Worlds. Didn't make day 2, which to me is a failure. And I kind of decided that I wanted to be better than that, and I was going to put more effort and change my preparation. Unfortunately, early on in the process, my brother was in the process of building or buying a house. So he was typically one of the guys I relied on for practice who wasn't as available to me. So that kind of opened up more time for me to work with Cody, who's really just a great, great player. And couldn't make Nova, unfortunately. Something came up, so I've said this before too. I was going to play R2P2 at Nova because I was just consistently winning on R2P2. Gen Con. I didn't get to go to Gen Con. And then leading up to Nova, we were kind of talking with the Golden Dice guys and talking with Cody about what we were going to play, and we were all kind of like liking Afra and winning on Afra. So it kind of became like an effort between Arrowbrick Gaming, Golden Dice, and a couple of other local guys in Philly to basically refine this deck and make it competitive and try to win Nova. Yeah. So it was like I said in one of my articles. Also, it took a village. This wasn't a solo effort. There were so many people that helped me do this and helped Cody do this that. They deserve a lot of the credit as well.
Yeah, Jack was pushing Afra pretty hard before. He said, you got to get on the Afra train. I'm like, yeah. I like the cool character, but I don't know in terms of the deck. And man, you guys certainly made that work for sure. How long would you say you were like intensely preparing for Nova?
Probably about a month. Basically after Gen Con. I was kind of annoyed I didn't get to go to Gen Con. Like, it was a sore spot for me because the Arrowbrick Gaming guys didn't do great. I felt like maybe they were on the wrong deck. It was only Paul and Kyle that went, and like I said, Kyle didn't have a lot of reps, so yeah. I wasn't expecting him to do great. I think he finished like 4-3, so he held his own. And then after that, I was basically talking to Cody, and I was like, "Man, it sucks. It sucks that we're not there." And he was like, "Yeah, don't worry. Nova's our time. Like, we're gonna get Nova. Like, as soon as we're done watching the live stream, like, we're preparing for Nova."
Yeah.
So it was really good having other people who were as dedicated to winning this as I was.
See, and I feel that's the key. That's having a team that first of all, that the players who are decent, and then if you're all, then you really push yourself. To want to get better, and you do get better just by the reps that you have with those people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of took this a little bit from the guys from the Hyperloops after Worlds, where they were saying like, yeah, it's like really great team that you can rely on, and like I don't have to get a lot of reps on a deck before I play it. And that's how I felt preparing for this, where I would be like, hey, like, what do you guys think about backup muscle in this deck? And then someone else could go play test it and come back with feedback, and I could be like, okay, it's good or it's bad. And I would have to play it one time live before I realized that, instead of having to go out and test it 10 games myself. So we were able to divide up the work a little bit, which made it a little bit less stressful than it had been in the past.
So if you had to estimate, how many reps would you say you had with that deck before you head up to the tournament?
Ooh, that's tough. I'm going to say probably 150. I probably had 30 live, and I probably had 120 on TTS.
Yeah. Man, that's a. But when you think about it, like the randomness of this game, which I think one of the things this deck does is it cuts through a lot of that, because there's just automatic damage that happens when you activate. Like there's times and when you watch you on stream, or if you play this deck, that you claim, and you're doing from all these crazy cards, the damage just happens, so you get past that randomness. But that when you think about randomness though in dice, even with 100 reps, each game could look totally different. Like the game against Luke, right, where you lose. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah, I mean, rolling the dice is obviously a huge part of this game. And anytime you're playing a game with 6-sided dice, there's going to be variance. And basically my prep and the way I try to build decks is to reduce that variance to as little as possible.
Right.
Where the impact of rolling double blanks is a little bit less than it typically would be. So yeah, I mean, that's the game, right? There were definitely a few situations in the tournament where I got lucky, but I feel like to win an event of this caliber, that's what anybody's going to have to do. And I think anybody who just wins an event of this size on just like, hey, I just outplayed everybody the whole time is probably not being completely honest.
So if you look at your path to get to the final table, and I think you mentioned it in talking to Jackalman Games a little bit, you went through some of the best players. I mean, so Nick, which got you right to the finals. I mean, that was technically his deck, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's where it came from. I would not have put that pairing together on my. If Nick had not played that at Gen Con, that would not have been the deck that I was playing at Nova. There's no doubt about it. We basically took Nick's list. We started with that. I won the Highlander Store Championship basically card for card with Nick's list. I might have had a doubt instead of a hidden motive because I didn't have 2 hidden motives or something with me.
Right.
Something along those lines. But yeah, I kind of liked it. I thought it was really good. I was winning with it. And then I went back and watched Nick's games from Gen Con, where he basically just got run over by tacos. So Towson Mando. And kind of looked at like, hey, how can I swing this matchup? How can I make this better? Added in some deflects, added in Relentless Pursuit, changed up his support structure a little bit to make some, I think it was 5 cards that were different. So we made what I consider improvements. But yeah, Nick gave us the base, right? Again, it wouldn't have been a thing if Nick hadn't come up with this pairing. So there's the kind of the orchestrator of that deck, and then you win. Like that's impressive. Before that, you had to play a Taxter, who is does Knights of Ren and Artificery stuff, and is a crazy good player. You had to play against Honestly Sarcastic, who was the one, I don't know, I think it was North American champ last year, and of course everybody knows him from Hyperloop stuff, and is always in the top 16, if not top 8, if not higher. You had to play through who else didn't you play? Did you play what's his name? Andrew Cox too? I did not play Andrew Cox. I played Agent of Zion.
Agent of Zion, that's what I meant.
The other big name.
Yeah, Agent of Zion. So, I mean, who's insanely good.
Yep.
And you make it. I mean, that's, I guess there's not a question there. It's just, that's amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I have to be honest, table before, we're good friends, so we can joke. And I basically was like, look, man, after who I beat, I just deserve to win this.
Yeah, right.
It was just like, I just played the who's who of Star Wars Destiny today.
Yeah.
Like, I hope I get it. You know what I mean? It would be hard for me to stomach going through honestly sarcastic. I played 4 games against Taxter total in the tournament,
right.
Playing Agent of Zion, playing Nick Cuenca. Like, I have to win. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like at that point I have to win. That's just like, to me, I would not have agreed with you if you said I was going to win going through that field.
Yeah, that's insane. And then at the end of the day, it's all said and done. You're at the final table, and it's against the guy who was on your team and that you practiced with for a month straight.
Yeah, it was really awesome, and I felt like at that point we were boners, and I think Cody feels that way too. It was just like it almost sucks one of us has to lose now. We had a 4-hour car ride down with DC Traffic together, where we basically just talked about everything with our deck. We're like, hey, in this matchup, are we taking shields or are we taking our battlefield? Hey, in this matchup, are we mulliganing for 000 or BT1? So it was just incredible that all the time that we put in like this 4-hour car ride down together where we just talked about every situation, just like it was helpful too. It was all useful information. Yeah. So it was so cool that we got to play together, and it's kind of a bummer that somebody has to lose, but that's the game we play.
Yeah. So to me, it's super exciting and rewarding. Like the time you put into it starts to pay off, and as I know you've talked about being content creators, and then, you're not winning anything. You go 3-3 at Worlds or whatever. But I mean, the reality is there is variance and there is randomness, and who knows? Going 500, I think is an accomplishment. But to break through and win, just huge congratulations to you on that.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
So just a couple other questions around like the competitive play. When you watch your stuff on YouTube, which, by the way, you guys put out fantastic content. And if you're not watching this stuff on YouTube, you guys are doing yourself a disservice. And there's a lot of competitive talk that, and I think about players who listen to this show are more casual, but want to get better. And when competitive talk happens, it gets really, that inside baseball stuff, and people refer to cards by the slang terms, and it's hard for common people to follow that stuff. You guys do such a great job of like taking a step back, even though you're all extremely competitive. You explain the cards, you read the cards to people who are listening and not watching on your the channel, listening on the podcast, and you talk about your competitive play together. So I guess number one, kudos for great stuff that you put out. But there was one episode in particular where you and Paul were going at it, and I think it was about mistakes. Like, do you give players a chance to take a mulligan, or if they miss a resource or miss a trigger? And Paul seemed to be the more aggressive one, and it's like, listen, you got to learn. It's like if you put your hand in a hot stove, that's the only way you're going to learn is when you get burned. And your style seems to be way more not casual. Clearly not casual since you won, nationals, but more laid back and more forgiving. How would you describe your style of play when you sit? If I'm going to sit at the table against you?
Yeah, so I would hope that people would consider my style of play to be friendly, competitive. I'm not there to make the person I'm playing against feel bad. I'm not there to have a miserable experience while I'm being competitive. I'm playing a game at the end of the day, right? So I'm there to have fun. I'm trying to have a casual conversation while we play our game. In Paul's defense, Paul is very hard on himself with mistakes, right? So if we're playing live and Paul forgets to spot yellow with easy pickings, he when we're playing a casual home game is like, nope, I'm throwing away my card. I'm spending the resource because when I'm playing live, I don't want that to happen, which is good. It's a good habit to get into. The point that I like to make in that conversation, though, is not everybody wants to be competitive. So when you're playing in a 2-2 game at a store championship, you don't have to worry about spotting yellow as much.
Right.
You know, if that happens, it's okay to take the card back because you don't want to discourage that person from playing in the next store championship.
And just as an aside too, and I've learned not to quickly judge people by whether it's on a podcast or on YouTube, because you just don't know the people. Case in point, I'm not sure who was talking about it, but they said they ended up playing Paul in a live event and said it was the exact opposite as he might come across on the YouTube channel. And that was the most, laid back, positive, friendly, little mistakes, willing to take those back too. Like it's the exact opposite is the way somebody might appear, when you're talking really with friends on YouTube.
Yeah, Paul's a gentle giant. Like if I'm ever in jail at 4 a.m, Paul's the guy I'm calling to come. Kind of friend he is. Like he's just a great person. And a little bit of the reason he comes off so aggressive when he's talking about cheating and rules and stuff like that is because he comes from Yu-Gi-Oh, where apparently this is basically like if you were playing Yu-Gi-Oh, you were doing everything you could to game the system. So that comes out sometimes when he's playing Star Wars Destiny, and you have to reel him back in a little bit and be like, hey, you're not playing Yu-Gi-Oh. People aren't showing up to this event to try to steal your backpack. Like,
right.
let's be a little more friendly about it.
Well, speaking of which, by the way, I totally agree with him in terms of playing. Like, I would let the person who's playing against me take back whatever they wanted to take back, and just look, if they feel comfortable with that, go ahead and do it. For myself, I would burn the card. I mean, that to me, I got to learn at some point, and I want to get better as a player, and it's hard. It's like hard to make sure you remember. I'm trying to come up with like I don't know if it's like a mnemonic device or something, just to remember all the different little pieces that just make them automatic. Like check the card for the trigger, check the spot requirement, check this, and just do it over and over again so you just remember. But if the top players are missing it, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a chance.
Yeah, I miss triggers a lot. I said that earlier. It's something I'm working on. But the thing that's helped me is anytime I play a card, I just read it. I just read the first line before I play it, just to make sure I'm not. If it's in a big spot, hey, if I'm playing deflect, I want to make sure my Snoke's alive.
Yeah, I think the reason why, and I'm guilty of this. If I'm at a tournament and I play, that I should know the cards. I feel like memorizing the cards is one thing that I could do to prepare. And if a battlefield's played, like, people can feel embarrassed, like having to read the battlefield. But, I say read the battlefield. Just read the battlefield, because that can absolutely lose you the game in the end.
Yeah, I pick up cards all the time and read them. If I have an idea what they do, I just to be sure. If it's something I'm not routinely playing in my deck, I want to read them just to think of other possible uses. If they have 2 of those in the deck, like, hey, when could this come into play again? Yeah. So it's just a good habit to get into.
See, I don't know what the rules are now in Magic. Back in the day, 100 years ago, when we played, and this is when the tour first started, and we had a small team. We're talking like 1997. And I remember playing at Origins in 97. People would write all over their Magic cards back in the day. And I feel like some of this stuff is on FFG. Like when there's a spot requirement or there's some play restrictions, like there's things they can do to the card. Like the cards all look very similar, and they're designed well, but like bold the text or like make it a different color or put something on the card, put a different border on the card like that. I feel like a little bit is on them to help enforce the rules of the game. If they're not going to have a huge judging program, then at least make the cards easier to spot whether or not they can be played.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard that about bolding the spot requirement on a card, and I really like that. I think that's good. I think that helps new players a lot, just having that, like, hey, this is important, like, remember this.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that doesn't drastically alter competitive play. So I think that's a really good solution.
Yeah, I thought about even circling it on my own card. Like that, you can play with signed cards, so that, that's legal. But like I said, in Magic, like people would write all over their cards and do stuff. But so to the event, and you talked a little bit about the just taking back things and just Yu-Gi-Oh! And the environment that's different versus Destiny. And there was some stuff that happened at Nova with a player or two. And I know that you ran into it a little bit at Highlander. And whether it's cheating or not cheating is one thing. But like when those types of things happen and pulling judges over, something at Nova happened around potentially marked cards. And was it Cody that ran up against that, or was it you?
So it was Cody, and I guess I can speak to it. I'm not going to name names or anything. Cody had a game where he thought his opponent was looking at his deck when he was shuffling, like basically shuffling face up. Cody said he let it go the first game, and then the second game he saw it again and basically just put his hand on the deck and was like, "Don't look at my cards." And then the guy stopped. And then he also had a situation where he thought the sleeves looked potentially marked.
Yeah.
And he was playing a delve deck. So when he played probe, he picked those cards thinking like, hey, they're probably priority cards. Both times he did it, they were delve.
Wow.
So it just, I don't know. It's definitely something that's happening. Not saying that person's definitely cheating, but there is definitely some smoke there for sure.
Well, for sure. I mean, if he thought knowing what the cards were, and picking them, and they actually were the right cards, like that seems more than coincidental.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely fishy, and Cody, I've known him since PAX Unplugged too. I've never heard him accuse anyone of cheating before, so take it for what you will. It was strange to me.
So I joke about it all the time about baking dice, because I think it was the 3-man meta that talked about it, which clearly it wasn't them, and I those guys are awesome, and I wish they would make more content, by the way, so shout out to those guys. But even the thought of somebody putting them in the oven to get the air bubbles to rise to the top so that one side's weighted versus another, or salting your dice, which is throwing it in some sort, like golf balls and golfers do, to make sure you see where the center is and see if there's a natural propensity for a side to come up more often than another one, which seems to be crazy. But I've heard about people trying to learn how to roll, which to me seems insane. But like, if you talk about craps and roulette and all that stuff, people talk about craps like there's ways to throw the dice to try and get, what is it, 7 and 11 you're trying to get in craps? I don't know. I'm not a craps player, but.
Yeah. All this stuff bothers me. Like, I don't like hearing about this stuff, just mostly because I've made a very concentrated effort to be as clean as you can be as a competitive Destiny player. Like, I'm basically, I have no interest in cheating, right? My interest in this game comes from the fact that I want to sit down and I want to have a mental battle with you, right? I want to try to outthink you. I want you to be trying to outthink me. And to me, the comparison is like, I'm going to play a game of basketball, but like, I'm going to shoot on an 8-foot hoop and you're going to shoot on a 10-foot hoop. Like, I have no interest in that, right? That doesn't satisfy my competitive desire. I want to beat you clean, and I want you to beat me clean. And it's stupid. Like, you're not playing for enough in this game to warrant cheating. Like, it's not like you're playing for 40 grand like you are in Magic sometimes.
Or even playing for a flight to Worlds.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Which would have been nice.
That would have been nice if I got a flight to Worlds. If FFG's listening.
Have you heard anything more about whether both of you guys got a buy or what is it, a seat or a buy, or have they reached out to you at all?
No, I kind of expected that though. After I won the West Virginia, reached out to them because I was new to Destiny and I didn't even know what Nationals was at the time. So I was like, hey, like, when is this Nationals thing? Like, what does this like buy card I have mean? And I didn't hear back from them. So I'll hear back from them a month before Worlds probably. Right.
So I used to get really upset earlier on in my Destiny career of podcasting that, they need to take it more seriously and they need to get more people involved. And Tiny Grimes tells a pretty funny story about how they were going to do a big medal ceremony. I think this was at the first Gen Con, and they didn't have the medals, and they mailed the medals, and he got mailed like the medal from X-Wing or from Rebellion or something like that. But then you think about it, and then the more serious they get, and let's say the prizes were bigger, I think the community would change. I'd worry about all the stuff we just talked about, like baking dice or whatever, and or marking cards. Like, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't happen a lot. So if the prize pool goes up, then maybe that increases the likelihood that would happen. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I guess I want them to be more attentive to the prize stuff without bringing like the negative element because there are more prizes.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see prize support go up a little bit, but I agree. I think, this is the first competitive card game I've played, but I've played I've played a lot of competitive video games. I've played poker, and this is without a doubt, maybe you disagree with me here, but this is without a doubt the best community around a game I've ever been a part of. And I don't really want that to change much. I think it's great as is. So that's certainly a concern, but I do think there's a little bit they could do in terms of prize support without drastically altering the community.
I 100% feel it's the best community. I mean, the fact that we make content, I mean, we're not getting rich doing it at all. I mean, we're losing money doing it by just, spending our Sunday talking about the game where we could be doing something else. I mean, it's because you love the game. So, if the prize support goes up a little bit and it's just cool things. And I'd like, one of the questions I have is around your collection. So are you a collector, or do you just get the cards that you need, or do you share cards in your community? Like, what is the itch that you scratch around buying these packs and boxes?
Yeah, so I collect anything sports and Star Wars. Right, I have aspirations for a sick man cave as soon as I finalize the house I'm working on.
Nice.
Yeah, I want everything. Right, like I'm working on the Decipher series, the old TCG. I want a complete set of that to display. Answer your question. Me and my brother. We share cards. So we basically go in on 5 boxes every time a set comes out and then fill in the blanks where needed.
Dude, one more box is a case. One more box is a case, man.
Yeah, I think now that I say that, I think we do 4 is what it comes out to, and we've had no issues with it. So I think this set I actually traded a Snoke for a Cassian because I started with 4 Snokes, and then that ended up being just terrible. Yeah, I was like, that's the worst thing I've done in the last 6 months probably. Right. And then I had to buy another Cassian also. So worked out good. Yeah,
that's awesome. So, oh my God, you're collecting the old stuff then.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so much fun. Like I'm always looking for it. When they discontinued the Decipher game, there were like 3 sets that were, I guess, limited release. So the commons and uncommons are like $15 each for that set. So me and my brother are trying to fill that in. But yeah, like I like anything Star Wars. I have Star Wars stuff all over the room I'm in right now. I got the national championship trophy frame, so that's going to go up on my wall hopefully until my wife gets fed up with it and takes it down.
Are there little Warrens running around yet, or no?
No. Uh-huh. There's a puppy, but no kids yet.
So you're going to build that man cave and then get ready because it's going to be taken over with baby toys. So enjoy that while you can. You better do it very quick. Drew, is what I'm saying. Back to shuffling for a second. Here's my worry about shuffling. And I don't know, you said he was shuffling face up or looking at the cards. I cannot shuffle for the life of me when cards are in sleeves. I just can't. So I feel like I look at them and I'm always worried. I even like say something awkwardly like, I promise you I'm not looking at these cards till I don't honestly even know what's in this deck half the time. If I don't look at what I'm doing, they are going to go all over this table and I'm already nervous enough playing. And then I can't, like, I would bridge them. I don't care about, bridging my cards, but I can't do it in these stupid dragon shields that I have. I have not found a strategy that works. And by the way, from what I watch, you talk about crazy. I watch these videos it's from Number File, and it's about shuffling and how to randomize your cards, which really, when people put them in the piles, so separating them up by piles, that's actually not making them random. That actually can indicate cheating, by the way, but I don't do it that way. I do it to try and separate them out. But they say smushing your cards together actually gets more variance between the cards. What I'm saying is I don't know how to shuffle, Drew. I don't know how to shuffle cards without looking at them. What do you do in that case? How do you do you do the over under shuffle? Like what's the answer there?
So I'm with you on that. I have a hard time shuffling my cards without looking at the bottom card because it kind of just naturally pops up sometimes. So what I've been doing, and I found out that this is terrible at Nova. I'm not going to bridge. I don't want to bridge. I don't want to bend the cards. I feel like it's just bad for, the deck I was playing probably had, it's a $200 deck. I'm not going to ruin that. I just like do a standard shuffle and then I pile shuffle. But I found out that pile shuffling is apparently can be considered cheating. Right. I was watching the replay And the Gen Con champion, Andrew Cox, was like, oh, if we're going to talk about things we have to get rid of, it's pile shuffling. And I kind of asked the guys after, I was like, what's wrong with this? Like, I'm just shuffling. And they were like, oh, it's easy. You can just like stack your deck ahead of time and then put it into piles and put it right back. And I was like, that actually makes perfect sense. But that's how naive I am to some of these things, and why I feel like I'm an easy victim for cheating sometimes. It's just because I didn't even think that people would do that.
Right. So yeah, pile shit. So I have no idea what I'm doing. I really don't. I guess I'm just going to have to do the once over and smush them together as best as I can. And I don't know. Cody said something like the only time he ever shuffled somebody else's cards. That's the other thing. I'm really sensitive about that too. I hate watching one, and I understand why it happens, but I hate when like people will like touch your die or they grab your cards when they friends in low places you and like take it. I don't know. It just drives me bananas.
So I have a funny story. The first time anyone ever did that to me was PAX East. And the guy picks it. It's the 0-1 game. We're both 0-1 in a Trilogies event with like 28 people in it. So basically, it's like the worst spot you could be in as a competitive Destiny player. You're 0-1 in a small Trilogies event. And the guy picks up my deck and starts to shuffle it and drops my cards everywhere. I was just sitting there like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I get why people do it. And like, if it's a big game, I'm okay. I understand. But like, it's 0-1 in a Trilogies event, man. Like, you're going to really pick up my deck and shuffle it and then drop it all over the floor. Right. It was very aggravating.
Yeah. Oh God, that would drive me bananas. I mean, I feel like you're similar to me in that the goal is to not make an uncomfortable situation, because you just want to have a good time playing, and like calling a judge over. So like, I think Cody, did he or did he not call a judge at that point?
I don't think he did. I think he just decided he was going to. Cody's thing, which is good, is everybody gets one warning with him, where he's like, I'll give you like one, like the first one's okay. Like if you do something to me, if you miss a trigger and you want to take it back, you get one, but never a second. Right. Which I think it's a good like rule of thumb. And I think that's what he did there, is like, if I see it again, I'm calling a judge. And the guy stopped after that. Yeah. So one thing that I heard happened in your store championship is, and I was like looking through somebody's discard pile, like the more I learn the game, the more I realize like that's actually a really good thing to do, because these decks are the same. And when you look at your deck, like I have an idea of what, I should be looking for, not looking for. So checking your discard pile to see if those cards have been played, or, to me, that seems to be logical. That seems to make sense. But when I do that and just grab it and then I grab your actual deck, that doesn't seem to be that good. Yeah, no. And, again, I'm not going to name names. I've talked about this in other podcasts before, but I had a conversation with that player after. He's somebody who I'm friendly with, who plays at our local, and he messaged me and he was, oh, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, like I wasn't cheating, all this other stuff. And I basically just responded back like, hey, I'm really disappointed. Like I expected better out of you than like doing stuff like that. Yeah. And like when you're preparing for Nova, this is the conversation we had. You shouldn't be preparing for how to play your deck. You should be preparing for how to not have this happen again. And I can say that from what I've heard, Nova went better for him than that store championship did in terms of not being a sloppy player. Yeah, see, and I've just learned not to judge. You don't know the situations there, and rather than hop on and slam a player for what they did, but that I feel like I'm going to say something and then I end up making that mistake. So then, shame on me, or missing triggers, or just, I don't know. I worry, Chris. I want to be a better player. I really do want to be a better player. And part of me in talking to you is just like, how did you get to the point where you got now? Like, is it TTS that you feel like got you there? Cause I don't like playing on TTS all that much, but like, what is it? People listening to this saying, you know what? I really want to be just comfortable at an event, whether I win or I don't win, that's beside the point. I want to feel comfortable playing, get better at the game. Like, what would you tell them? What do you tell them to do? Yeah, so definitely, without a doubt, the most important thing is to play games. You need to play. The more games you play, the better you're going to get. For me, I think a decision that I made at a certain point is that I wanted to start rubbing elbows with some of the top players. I joined the Hyperloops Discord, where there's basically, the who's who of Star Wars Destiny. And I was basically just a pain in the butt in the match finder section, where I was like, hey, who wants to play with me? Hey, who wants to play with me? And then I started getting games against Joe Colon and against Bobby Sapphire. And I quickly realized I was not nearly as good as I thought I was. But that practice and them kicking my butt really helped me get to where I was today. Same with Edwin Chen. When I started playing with him, he just basically kicked my butt every time we played. But that's helpful. Playing against people who are better than you is going to make you a better player.
And what do you think separates, like, for you to get over the hump, right? And you talk about those other players. What do you think is like that key difference, or what changed the most for you? Because it wasn't just luck, as you talked about. Like, what is it that helped you really get over that hump as a player?
That's a tough question, because it's a collection of things, right? There's so many things that you have to perfect, in my opinion, to really become like a top player. And I would still say I probably have a lot of work left to do. Let's put it that way. There's people who at this event finished, worse than me, that are better players than me. And I'm still, even though I won, I'm still trying to catch them. The big thing for me is just like seeing how the turn's going to play out. That's when I started like calculating how much health I have left, figuring out, do I need to mitigate or not mitigate? Because like one of the big mistakes people will make is like they see 2 damage and they're like, I have to spend a resource to mitigate right away. When in reality, you don't care at all if they deal 2 damage to you. And just like kind of envisioning the turn and envisioning how you're going to win. Honestly, Sarcastic is the guy that I played against. It really, really, you see that with him, where he's just like, I don't care if I win the game with 1 health left, as long as I know I'm going to win the game.
Right. And
just kind of watching his slow, methodical play style, that really helped me.
Again, I'm not exactly sure what show it was on, but Cody talked about something that I thought was great advice. He said everybody should play with Thrawn for 2 months, because then you start to realize like what decisions people make based on the hands that they have, or the cards that just make up their deck, and the cards that are just getting played. And by that, he felt it made him just like a way better player with the deck that you ended up winning with.
Yeah. So Cody is absolutely correct about Thrawn. I think Thrawn is a great choice early in a format, just because you're constantly getting to see what the other person's trying to do. So it gives you an idea of what other decks are trying to do quicker than playing a deck that doesn't play Thrawn. So that's great advice. And I for a new player at any point in the format, that's great as well. I should also say, in terms of like personal improvement, playing at the local I play at here, because I didn't realize for a long time, for like 6 months when I was playing Destiny, that we had a great local scene here in Philly. But now on a weekly basis, I get games with Cody Williams. I get games with Anthony Wynn and Joe Biocchi and Jack Brummel from Golden Dice, who are just like great players. And like I said, rubbing elbows with great players all the time has helped me a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So I appreciate you've already spent way too much time, and I thank you for doing that. I want to mention one thing real quick. It seems like you're a huge fan of Grand Moff, and you're going to put together a really cool Grand Moff deck. Actually, the feedback was they need to fix that right away. Talk to me about that deck, and what do you think is going to happen to it?
Yeah, I haven't really play tested a whole lot against it yet, but it just seems like a terrible play experience, because if you get Grand Moff down on turn 1 with Thrawn, it's basically just like, hey, I'm going to take 2 cards from your deck, and then I'm going to take your next best card. So you're going to play your every hand with 2 cards, and they're going to be your 2 worst cards. It just feels terrible. But I have to play test a little bit and see how reliable getting Grand Moff out is really. If you watch any of my stuff, you know that I hate decks that provide a negative play experience.
Yeah.
Like I didn't like Sabine because it just felt non-interactive at times. I don't like decks that don't let you play Destiny. And this feels like it could be the next deck. I think it might have been the best deck of the tournament. The limited experience I've had against it has made me want to just leave the room several times.
So is the combo Grand Moff, which lets you use the claim ability as a power action, right? And then you play Jedi Temple, which is look at somebody's hand and what do you have to like take 2 events, or how does it work?
Yep, look at somebody's hand and then discard 2 events. So they're going to open every turn by using the Grand Moff power action. They're going to take your 2 best events, and then they're going to activate Thrawn, and then they're going to know your hand and take your next best card.
Yeah, that seems pretty busted.
Yeah, it's not fun to play against. There's no doubt about it. It's not a pleasant experience whatsoever. Again, I haven't really been since Nova. I haven't been playing a whole lot of competitive. I've been trying to just do some more casual stuff. They're doing a bounty hunter Islander on September 22nd, which is it's basically like a 5-round Swiss or something, where if you beat me or Edwin Chen, you win prizes. So I'm trying to come up with a deck that's fun and beatable, but also competitive for that event.
Just talking about negative play experiences, I seem to have watched you play a fair bit of mill, sir.
Yeah,
Cassian Yoda as and you go either way with that. You go aggressive with it. You go mill.
Yeah, I just really like Yoda, and I really like Yellow Hero. So that was strong. I liked Mill more when it was a niche play style.
Exactly.
I think Mill is perfect in a, you have to respect Mill, but not you have to build your entire deck around Mill. Right. And right now I feel like you have to build an entire deck around the fact that you're going to play Mill multiple times if you go to a tournament. So right now I'm not huge on Mill. I will be if it gets, kind of nerfed back to where I like it.
So do you see people are talking a lot about Snoke and Yoda possibly getting some hits? So what do you? I've heard you talk about Snoke. Maybe let's make that only on damage, his power action, and say it's 1 on everything else, or do you think they're just going to come through and say, look, he's 2 extra points. Same thing with Yoda. Let's just deal with it that way.
Yeah, so I like Yoda where he is. I feel like Yoda at 14, if you make Yoda a 14-point middle versus a 13-point support, I think it kind of just kills him, which I really don't want to see that happen.
Right.
Number one is people have invested a lot of money into being able to play Yoda, and same with Snoke in that sense too. I think he's fine where he is. My proposed change for Hero would be that you move Cassian from 10-14 to 11-14. Which basically takes the 3-wide mill deck off the table. And I think 3-wide mill is what's really holding back a lot of these decks that can deal with the ultra greedy hero vehicles decks or villain vehicles decks.
Right.
Snoke, if you're going to change him, my proposed change would be that you change the Snoke ability to damage only instead of resources and discard. It feels like the ability to Snoke for resources is really what puts him over the top.
Right. And he still becomes, he's still playable that way.
Yeah. I just less broken. I would like to see what would happen if you take 3-wide mill off the table, but I don't think FFG will do that. I change Cassian to 11-14 and then just let everything else go. More likely is that you'll see a hit to Yoda and Snoke, which is unfortunate. Yeah. But I feel like if you take 3-wide mill off the table, it opens up a lot of decks that can just aggro the crap out of these. I want to get 14 resources on turn 1 decks.
Well, we'll see. Maybe they'll do that stuff with the new set, which is I thinking is going to drop right around PAX Unplugged, which you said is going to be the first time ABG is going to be all together at one event, correct?
Yeah, we're going to have, I think we're at 7 guys now. Yeah, nice. All of us will be at the same event. So we're super excited. I don't know if we connecting hotel rooms for that, but we're excited, man. PAX Unplugged to me, I have my world seat. I'm just playing for a couple of cool promo cars and I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
So it's a little mini vacation for me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So what's next for you guys? I know that your site's cooking with gas. You got some great articles going up. You've done a lot of stuff about Nova. You've got your Patreon starting to kick into gear. What's happening around the future of ABG?
Yeah, so we just we launched the Patreon recently. Where if people want to hang out in our Discord, get access to our monthly giveaways that we've been doing. That's the place to go. If you watch our videos, Paul did probably, in my opinion, the best outro of any content creator. So that alone is worth $1 a month to me.
Oh, it's solid. It's solid. Very solid. Yeah, but I give him a lot. I give him a lot of grief. By the way, I think he's a great player. It's going to happen for him. I know it's going to happen for him. Probably at another big tournament, and I think he's going to be wearing a belt very soon. So.
I hope so, man. Paul, when he's on his game, is a pain in the ass to play against because like he plays super aggressive. Like he's the most aggressive player you're going to in Star Wars Destiny. Like he's trying to kill you on turn one every game. It's crazy. The other thing I wanted to say about Patreon, though, not official yet, but it looks like we're going to have like a coaching tier coming. So look for that in the near future if you want to get some games in with me or Cody Williams, the top two at Nationals. Maybe Edwin. We'll see what where he lands on it. But
awesome.
Should have that coming soon.
Well, I mean this true. Like you guys you put out great content. It's just a matter of time before this really starts to blow up. I think it's going to happen now for sure. And you have a way of doing it that just makes people feel welcome, while you can still be ultra competitive and have a great time doing it. So it's a pleasure to talk to you and just to watch your stuff. I really look forward to seeing all the stuff you guys do in the future.
Yeah, man, appreciate that. We try and we put a lot of. So it's always nice to hear positive feedback.
Yeah, we'll keep it up and good luck. And we're going to definitely hang out at PAX Unplugged.
Yes, absolutely. I will be at the bar every night. And
all right.
I'm looking forward to buying you a beer.
All right, I'll take it. I'm going to take you up on it. Ladies and gentlemen, he's your U.S. champion. And you get a chance to play him. What's the event? When's the event at Highlander?
So it's September 22nd, Saturday. It's Trilogies format, so it'll be my first time playing Trilogies with Way of the Force, which is fun. If you show up, it's just like it's typical 5-round Swiss, and if you beat me or Edwin Chen at any point during the event, there's bonus prizes that are being handed out.
Man, Drew, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me, man. Love your content. Keep it up.